I'll never forget that morning. At 7:12 a.m., the pounding on the door came fast and heavy, as if someone was trying to smash through the wooden frame. Before I could even process it, I heard my father's voice booming through the apartment hallway. Eliza opened the door. The inspectors shut everything down. What the hell did you do? I froze for a second, my breath catching in my throat. Outside, the sound of his shoes stomping on the concrete floor echoed like a storm brewing behind the thin door. I walked over and unlocked it. When the door swung open, I met his blazing eyes and saw his hand clutching a stack of papers. Sweat soaked his forehead. For the first few seconds, I said nothing. I just stared at him. In that moment, my mind drifted back to a week earlier. My name is Eliza Moreno. 34 years old. I live alone in a third-floor apartment in downtown Sacramento, working as a freelance interior designer. My life is stable, tidy, and mostly independent. Though I've been on my own since 18, I still keep in touch with my family mainly through my mom and my sister Natalie. We're not close, but I always thought I'd be there if they needed me. One Monday morning in early May, my mom called. She said their kitchen had a gas leak, the cabinetry was rotting, and city inspectors were coming soon. If they didn't fix it fast, they'd face fines. I was surprised why hadn't they mentioned this sooner, but Mom said they didn't want to bother me. Every word was carefully chosen, like a needle, soft but sharp. Then came a rare call from my dad. He confirmed everything. If you can help send the money today to make it in time. If not, forget it. His tone was blunt, not pleading, but to me it was a request wrapped in pride. I didn't hesitate long. I had the money, and if the kitchen was as dangerous as they claimed, I wanted them safe. I transferred $8,600 to Mom's account, no questions asked, no expectation of gratitude. Helping my parents seemed like the obvious thing to do. The days that followed were eerily quiet. No thank you, no updates. I figured they were busy with the renovations. Natalie sent a few photos to our group chat cabinets being removed, new tiles arriving, workers busy. I didn't respond but looked at them. Then, the following Monday, 1 week, after I sent the money, my phone buzzed while I was working. A group message from Natalie reminder housewarming this Saturday. Immediate family only. I read it again. Immediate family onlys. Right after a private message from Mom popped up, we don't want you to come. I don't know how long I stood in my living room, the phone screen glowing in my hand. I didn't feel anger at first, just emptiness. A stinging silence. Then slowly, the emotions broke through. Not because I wasn't invited, but because they'd taken my money and deliberately cut me out of the story. I opened my banking app and checked the transaction. Luckily, the transfer was set as a scheduled payment, and due to some issue with the contractor, hadn't been fully verified. I immediately froze the funds and called the contractor, instructing them to halt all work. The next day, I went to the site, the house where I grew up, and gave each worker $50 in cash with a message. If Don and Lisa don't pay in full today, stop working. If they give you trouble, call the police. I didn't tell them only half the money had been sent. I was the one who signed the contract with the contractor, not my parents. And I was also the name on the building permit application, a requirement for the work to continue. I didn't expect things to escalate so quickly. The next morning, city inspectors showed up for a surprise check. No legal responsible party, no proper contract, and some construction violations. The permit was frozen. And now my father stood outside my apartment door, furious beyond belief. Are you getting revenge on your parents over some stupid text? I straightened up, looked at him for 3 seconds, and said yes. And because they told me not to come while spending my money. He froze as if he didn't recognize the Eliza he knew. I continued. I froze the money. The contract's on hold. The permit's invalid, without my signature. His hands shook as he shuffled the papers and turned to leave without another word. I closed the door, feeling like I'd shut a chapter of my life. I never imagined I'd become the villain in a story I paid to start. 3 days after my dad's outburst, Natalie posted a photo on Instagram. It was taken from the kitchen window, soft light, a white countertop, baby's breath in a glass vase, and a few relatives smiling around a plate of cake. It looked like a family magazine spread. Except for the caption, finally done, no drama this time. No mention of me, no trace of me, not a word about who funded it all. Just a cold, pointed remark. Outsiders were easily swayed. They liked the post, commented on Natalie's maturity, Mom's grace, Dad's commanding presence at 60. No one knew the one person barred from that kitchen was the one who paid for it. I turned off my phone. I didn't feel angry, not then. Just detached. like the last leaf on a branch blown away without a glance. That afternoon, I received a postcard from the mail. Not from my family, but from the neighbor's kid, the son of an electrician who worked on my parents' project. The front was a crayon scribble, a woman with brown hair tied high standing by a fridge. In the top left corner it read, "Miss Eliza fixed Grandma and Grandpa's kitchen. She's a good person." I sank to the floor. I didn't cry. I just held the postcard for a long time, as if it were the only thing reminding me that kindness isn't always invisible. The next day I called the contractor again. I knew my parents couldn't pay the remaining balance on time. I asked him to keep the project frozen with no further work unless confirmed by the payer me. I wanted them to feel the void they'd created. 3 days later, Mom called. I didn't pick up. The next day, Natalie called. I didn't pick up. That evening, they switched to texts. The first was gentle, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. The second was sharper. "Are you trying to tear the family apart just because you're hurt?" Still no response. By the next morning, the tone shifted. "We need to talk. There's a financial issue." I didn't need to ask to guess what it was. The next morning, I got a bank alert Natalie's rent payment failed. For nearly 2 years, I'd set up an automatic $750 monthly transfer from my account to her landlord. No one in the family ever said thank you. Natalie never told her boyfriend who was covering the rent. It was all taken for granted. Now I canceled that transfer. I called Natalie's landlord directly and told them I was no longer covering the cost. I didn't explain much, just that they need to handle it themselves. The feeling letting go was strange, but not painful. I was used to stepping back, enduring, picking up the pieces so others could stay whole. But that day I realized that burden was never mine to carry. That afternoon I opened my dad's dental file, still linked to my credit card for his ongoing treatments he never mentioned. I called the clinic, "Please remove my card from the system. I'm no longer responsible for this account." The nurse sounded confused. "We have a follow-up next month." I cut in. "He'll handle it. This isn't my responsibility anymore." I hung up. In that moment, my heart felt cleared out. No rage, no hatred, just disconnection. I was no longer the tarp catching leaks, the cushion for their falls, the shadow behind their financial fixes. That evening, Natalie texted, "You're so petty," cutting off everything, even family. Attached was a photo of Dad, head bowed with a stack of medical records behind him. I stared at the screen, holding a warm cup of tea. Something new stirred in me, not coldness, but clarity. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my finance app and reviewed every auto payment I'd quietly covered health insurance plans, Dad's side loans, church fees Mom sent, but I paid. One by one, I canceled them all. It took 10 minutes, but those 10 minutes felt like unshackling my ankles. I knew to them I was becoming the problem, a traitor, ungrateful, blind to family ties. But I also knew the only thing I'd done was take back control of my life. No more helping without being asked, no more sacrificing, only to be discarded. In that silence, something else began to form. They'd have to live in the kitchen they'd locked me out of. Would they feel my absence, or would they rewrite the story again? I didn't know yet. But I knew this: if they wanted to start over, they'd have to learn how to invite me to the table. Not with pretense. With truth. I started hearing rumors about myself one late June afternoon while watering my small balcony plants. The last sunlight filtered through the leaves like it was weaving through memories I'd folded away. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my aunt, Mom's youngest sister, who'd always kept a tactful distance from family conflicts. One line: "Eliza, did you really not contribute a dime to the kitchen?" I stared at the screen as if the words might explode. Not because I was shocked, but because I knew. I knew this was coming. I just didn't expect it to be so fast and blatant. I didn't reply right away. I set the watering can down, washed my hands in silence, and sat at my desk opening my laptop. In my family finances folder, I kept every receipt, invoice, and bank email. Everything neat, no frills. I pulled up a bank statement, $8,600 transferred, date and time, clear, recipient Lisa Moreno, my mom. I sent it to my aunt with one line: "I just want everyone to know the truth." 5 minutes later, she called. "Eliza," her voice trembled. "Your mom said you promised to help, but backed out at the last minute. Your dad said you were irrationally angry and made it up. Natalie said you only sent $500 to show off." I closed my eyes. The feeling wasn't pain. It was a chill spreading from my chest. Not because they lied, but because they lied so easily. They knew I had proof. They knew I could flip the story. Yet they still spoke. They still framed me as the erratic daughter who didn't think of family. I opened my email and drafted a short message. Recipients, every close relative, aunts, uncles, cousins who sent half-hearted birthday wishes once a year. Subject regarding the kitchen renovation support. I kept it brief. Attached was a screenshot of the bank transaction with one note, in case anyone's unclear on the details. No long story. No confessions. No accusations. Just the truth, standing bare and undeniable. 12 minutes later, my aunt sent a sad face emoji. A cousin texted, I didn't know it was like this. Sorry for believing one side. An uncle called the first time in nearly 3 years. He didn't apologize, just asked softly, You okay? I nodded, though he couldn't see. I'm okay. But I knew I wasn't entirely okay. Not when people were twisting my story in front of those who held me as a crawling baby. Not when I had to prove I did the right thing, just because the closest people chose lies to save face. That night, Natalie didn't text. But Mom posted another photo on Facebook. The new kitchen again, but this time just her and Dad. The room looked bigger but emptier. No relatives, no captions, no cheers. Caption, we're proud of what we've overcome together. A few of Mom's friends commented with praise. One asked no housewarming. Sis Mom replied lightly, We're keeping it private this time. I didn't laugh. I just felt sad for them choosing fake silence over a real apology. My aunt called again the next afternoon. Her voice was hesitant. Do you know the housewarming they planned to redo? Only a few people showed up. I was invited but didn't go. I heard some felt awkward. Someone asked outright why you weren't there. Your mom cried. Your dad left mid-meal. I wasn't surprised, but strangely I felt no satisfaction. No victory. Just exhaustion. Like I'd swum too long in cold water and had no strength left to pull anyone up. My aunt paused, then added, You don't have to forgive if you're not ready, but don't let this make you lose faith in family. I gave a faint smile. Auntie, I haven't lost faith in family. I just realized sometimes the closest people tell the worst lies about your life. That night I turned off all phone notifications. I sat in my dark apartment lighting a small candle. Not for faith, but because I needed soft light, something neither blinding nor completely silent. I thought about the times I sent money without being asked. The times I bought Dad's meds while Mom told relatives he was paying. The calls Natalie cut short for hair appointments after I'd just covered her rent. Now I understood I didn't need to fight back anymore. I didn't need to speak to defend myself. The truth had spoken enough. And for those who wanted to misunderstand, words were meaningless. I'd once been the good guy in their story. Then I became the problem. But now I just wanted to be someone uninvolved. At least until they learned to tell the story right. I started breathing easier when the kitchen stopped haunting my dreams. No more standing before a locked door. No more hearing Dad yell my name through a blurry gap. No more reaching for my phone to freeze that payment again in my sleep. Those dreams looped for weeks until one July morning I woke up feeling nothing. No anger, no regret, no expectation. Just empty and still. A silence I didn't know I needed so badly. I began cleaning my apartment. Not dusting, but clearing forgotten corners. Drawers with old letters from Natalie and unsent birthday gift decorations I'd bought to bring some family warmth to my place. I packed them up. Didn't throw them out, but boxed them and stowed them atop the closet. Like I was accepting those things no longer belonged to my present. That afternoon I stepped onto the balcony and trimmed the mint plant that had started sprawling beyond its pot. Its tangled roots were like old relationships neglected, they choked everything else. I cut hard, leaving one neat sprig. For the first time in months I was doing something just for me. Around then I reopened the interior design software I'd neglected since the renovation mess. I started a new sketch not for a client, but for my own apartment. I changed virtual wall colors, tried new furniture styles, added soft golden light to my workspace. The digital home began to reflect my mood, calm, simple, purposeful. One noon, I got a text from Reggie, my college best friend. Yo, guess who's posting about illegal construction with an Instagram link? I opened it. An electrician, the one from my parents' project, posted a photo of him installing outlets in a kitchen. Caption, no permit needed, just know how to smile at inspectors. LOL. I recognized the tiles instantly. The ones I'd advised Mom to pick. The outlet placement matched my original design for the contractor. I stared at the photo for a long time. No anger, just cold. Numb and hard, like a reef after a storm. I opened the Sacramento Building Department's website. Anonymous violation report section. I attached the photo, listed my parents' address, and detailed electrical work by unlicensed individual. No formal contract. Evidence of building code violations. I didn't sign my name. Not needed. Not out of fear, but because this wasn't revenge. It was doing right. 3 weeks later, Mom sent me an email. Subject about some issues and things I need to say. It was over a page long. It started with vague apologies. I don't deny there was a misunderstanding. I was too emotional, but I didn't want things to go this far. Then a long paragraph blaming Natalie, the contractor's stressful circumstances. I read without being moved. Maybe because I was used to conditional apologies, the sorry, but I'd heard my whole life. The email ended with an offer. If you want, we can talk again. I know you don't trust us, but I'm still your mom. I didn't reply, because that day I'd gotten a notice from the building department the project at 312 Voss Street has been ordered to halt for a full electrical system review. Homeowners face a $9,300 fine for non-compliant construction. I let out a long breath. Not smug, just breathing. That night I brewed ginger tea, played instrumental music, and let Mom's email sit in my inbox like a letter from another world. I didn't need to respond. Didn't need to speak. The truth had spoken for me. I knew my parents were scrambling. Maybe they were calling every relative to explain. Maybe Mom was typing tearful defenses on her Facebook. Maybe Natalie was rushing to delete her snarky posts about me. I didn't care, because for the first time I didn't feel obligated to fix their messes. I didn't have to jump into the fire to save the family image. I was learning to exist without proving anything. I don't know if they'll learn from this. But I learned one thing: freedom doesn't come from being forgiven. It comes from knowing you're no longer controlled by anyone, not even the past. And sometimes just cleaning your own house is enough to start over. I didn't expect much from that birthday. No cake, no flowers, no gifts. After everything, I thought I'd spend my new age in the familiar silence of my small apartment with some dried lavender I'd bought myself. But on the morning of June 8th, as I brewed coffee, a quiet text lit up my screen. Mom. One short line. If you're free tonight, we're having a small dinner at home. Just family. No party, no guests. Happy birthday. I didn't know what prompted her to write it, or if it was an apology, but I stood still for a while, my hand on the kettle that had gone cold. It took nearly an hour to reply. I'll come. No need for anything special. I arrived at 6 p.m. sharp. Brought nothing but myself and a box of jasmine-scented oolong tea I thought might suit a quiet evening. The house looked the same outside. But inside, something was different. The air wasn't thick with caution. The kitchen light was just bright enough. The smell of food wafted, gently warm with ginger, a hint of pepper, oddly comforting. I slipped off my shoes and stepped in. Mom was chopping vegetables. Dad sat at the table holding a newspaper but staring out the window. Natalie wasn't in the room, but I heard her soft laugh from the living room. Small and hesitant, not the loud boasts from her social media. No one mentioned the past. Mom handed me a plate. Help me slice the carrots. I took it without a word. Thin carrot slices fell onto the cutting board with tiny, strange sounds. We ate dinner without birthday wishes. No singing, no candles. But on the table was a small cake homemade by Mom. No frosting, no fuss. Written in chocolate. Thank you for helping. Sorry for not appreciating it. I didn't look at anyone in that moment. I was afraid I'd cry if I did. But Dad's hand rested lightly on the table near mine. Natalie poured me more tea without joking. And Mom looked at me with eyes I'd never seen from her before. Not demanding. Not avoiding. But stepping back silent, acknowledging. We ate without discussing the past. No one mentioned last year's money. No one brought up the day I was barred from this kitchen. But I felt it. Everyone in that room had shifted. A little. Just enough to see each other not as roles. Dad didn't snap when Natalie dropped her chopsticks. Natalie didn't ramble about work or online drama. Mom didn't urge me to eat more to fill the silence. After dinner, Mom packed me some leftovers in a plastic container. For your lunch tomorrow, she said, her voice so normal I couldn't tell if it was heartfelt or habit. But I took it, because for the first time it came with no strings or hidden expectations. Before I left, Natalie opened the door for me. She stood there holding a glass of water. After a pause, she said, I know I messed up a lot. I didn't reply, but I nodded slightly. Not forgiveness, just acknowledgement that I heard her. In the car, I sat behind the wheel for a while. The kitchen light glowed through the window. Mom was washing dishes, Dad clearing the table. Natalie passed by holding the cake I hadn't finished. I looked at that light, and for the first time I didn't feel like an outsider. Not entirely. I don't know if this was a beginning or just a fleeting touch before parting. But I know today's silence wasn't cold. It was making room for something else, something I thought was impossible hope. I started the engine. The night breeze slipped gently through the window. Something in me softened. Not everyone changes completely, but everyone can learn to love again from the start. I got a text from Natalie one Tuesday morning. The sky that day was strangely clear, a pale blue like children's construction paper dotted with small clouds, as if someone had sketched them with a white crayon. I was waiting at a red light on 7th and K Street, holding a warm latte when my phone buzzed. Natalie, a short text. No punctuation, no emojis. I still have the birthday card you gave me in 2016, remember? I stood still for a few seconds. Not because the message was profound, but because it was from Natalie. And because 2016 felt further than I realized. That card I remembered. It was the year I bought tickets for us to spend 3 days in Yosemite, just Pines cold sandwiches. And one night we fell asleep outside because neither of us zipped the tent. I wrote in the card, "You're the only person who can drive me nuts and make me want to hug you at the same time. Happy birthday for not making me run away yet." I gave a small silent chuckle, just a slight lip curl. No anger, no pain. Just calm. I didn't text back with words. I sent a light smiley sticker, rosy cheeks, eyes slightly tilted, a vague signal, but enough for Natalie to know I read it. I remembered, and I hadn't fully shut the door. We didn't keep talking after that, but I didn't need more then. I went back to my day visiting an old furniture shop, picking new curtains for my living room, eating hot spaghetti alone at my usual spot. Everything was normal, steady, no desperate calls or surprise bills anymore. That's when I realized I'd truly stepped out of that cycle. I no longer lived on standby waiting to be asked, blamed, or burdened with a family I thought was my duty. I used to believe that because I was stronger, more independent, had more, I had to endure more. But I got it now. No one forced me to carry them all. I'd let go of that weight not because I was cold, but because I chose to love the right way. A month after Natalie's text, I received a real card mailed. Crooked handwriting, purple ink smudged at one corner. "If you don't mind, I'd love to hear the Yosemite story again sometime." Signed Natalie, the one who messed up but doesn't know how to say it. I placed the card on my bookshelf next to a small aloe plant. I haven't written back. But when Mom called one Sunday evening and left a voicemail about Dad replanting the onion bed, I didn't sigh at her voice. I didn't grip my phone when their number appeared. I just smiled, left the phone on the table, and kept brewing tea. I know I'm forgiving. Not all at once. But bit by bit in small acts, replying with a sticker, listening to a voicemail without deleting it halfway, keeping a card instead of tossing it. Forgiving isn't forgetting the hurt. It's looking back without pain. One early fall afternoon as I drove past the old house, the one I was banned from, where I froze the payment, where Dad pounded on my door yelling, I pulled over. No plan, no appointment. I just wanted to pass by, then stopped. I got out and looked at the house from afar. New curtains. The fence repainted pale white. In the fading sunset, I saw a shadow in the kitchen, maybe Mom chopping something on the counter. I didn't knock, didn't go in. But for the first time in ages, I didn't feel like an outsider. I returned to my car, closing the door softly. The cool leather seat pressed against my back, not biting, just reminding me I was still alive, still moving forward. I don't know what happens next. Natalie might go quiet again. My parents might slip up, and I might need distance again, but I'm not afraid anymore, because I learned one thing. If they're truly ready to walk beside me, not me dragging them, not me propping them up forever, I can hold their hand again, not to go back to how it was, but to start anew on a foundation where truth is acknowledged, mistakes are shared, and love comes without conditions. I don't need a perfect family. I just need one that sees each other with honest eyes. And that afternoon, under a golden sky with leaves just starting to fade, I saw it, even if just a glimpse through a lit kitchen window. For the first time in ages, I stepped into that kitchen, theirs, but once mine too, and didn't feel like an outsider. My story isn't just a family conflict. It's a long journey of learning to love the right way, loving without hurting myself, without trading kindness for dismissal. I once thought helping was my duty, but I realized real love starts with respect, not unconditional sacrifice. Sometimes silence is self-protection. Some doors close to open a new way of living, calmer self, possessed healthier. Not everyone changes fully, but everyone can learn to step closer more kindly. If you've been hurt by those you love, remember you're not alone, and you have the right to set boundaries to heal. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this story touched you, leave a comment, share your thoughts, and don't forget to follow the channel for more stories to come. See you in another journey full of sincerity and hope.